Hello, Taylor County. I'm Alex Renneman. I'm here with Crystal Barney Forrester, running for Board of Education. Crystal, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Let's start out just by telling us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Crystal Forrester. I am a lifelong resident of Taylor County. I went to Flemington Elementary and graduated from Flemington High School in 1987. From there I went on to WVU and I got a bachelor's degree in chemistry. And I began working at Sturm Environmental Services in Anmore as a bench chemist. It was an environmental water quality laboratory. I met my husband in 1988 and we were married in 1993. We have one son, Brandon. He is a 2015 graduate of Grafton High School. He was on the football team, he ran track, he was on the cross-country team. He had certificates in welding and machine shop. And then in December of his senior year, the coaches from Teal College came and recruited him to play football there. So he no longer plays football. He played for a season, and he no longer plays, but he's majoring in biology. And he's a junior currently. And I'm very proud of him, as you can probably tell. And I get to see him actually this weekend. So.
Oh, good for you.
So I went back to school. After working at Sturm, in 2001, I started working for the federal government at the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, which is a federal research laboratory. We're not to be confused with OSHA. We do research for them to make regulations, or we make recommendations for the safety and health of the workers. So like I said, it's a federal research lab, and then I went back to school and I have a Master of Science in Chemistry now, and I'm a research chemist, and I have my own projects and I work on some other projects, and I'm currently doing a lot of research on firefighter gear and the contaminants that come on after a fire and how to remove those.
Oh, cool. All right, great. Hey, so I think most people have an idea of what they think a Board of Education member does. What's your idea? What's your perspective of the role of the Board of Education?
Well, the Board of Education has a supervisory role. They set a lot of policy. They meet with they meet as a board with the superintendent, and they decide how the money will be spent, what to earmark, what the needs are for the county, who should be doing what functions within the county. And like I said, their meetings are open to the public. They meet twice a month, and that's...
Yeah. Could you provide an example of an experience in your life, a role, a job, a challenge, anything that you feel has prepared you to be an effective leader for our county on the Board of Education?
Oh, wow, yes. Like I said, I work for the federal government. I do have a lot of leadership opportunities there. One thing, when I went back to school to get my master's, the students that I was in class with were about my son's age.
Okay.
So I was kind of mom to them, and at the same time I was also the president of the All Sports Mothers over at the high school. And I had all these kids coming in, and at that point in time I realized that I should be more of a mentor and more in a leadership position. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So let's kind of think. So let's say you're elected. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And as we follow through in that term, when you jump in, what is your number one priority as a board member?
Well, the first thing I need to do is learn the board's processes. I know that they send you to school for that because there are certain things the board members can do. There are certain things that the board members can't do. So that's number one. One thing that I would like to see developed in Taylor County would be some type of a mentorship program for youth, possibly pairing them not necessarily with teachers and people on the staff, but with community leaders, different businesses, if they have a particular interest in something, if there could be a mentorship formed there. And I'd like to kind of see that formed and possibly run through the central office if possible. I also think that, we have a wonderful facility here at the high school, the vocational center, and I think that it needs to be, it's starting to be utilized more, but I think that there are students that could benefit from following more vocational paths, because there are so many jobs out there that are open now. And then what we don't have here in Taylor County, they have at the United Technical Center. And these kids can come out of technical programs and make $70,000, $80,000
Sure.
a year.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I just think that there needs to be, I mean, I realize that they have counselors and everything in the school, but I would like to see a different level of guidance for those type of students.
Gotcha. So let's play that even further.
Okay.
So it's one term, it's multiple terms, whatever it is. When you're finally finished as a board member, what would you like for your legacy to be?
Well, I would like to be able to say that I did my absolute best for the students of Taylor County, for sure. I mean, you know, they're our future. I think if I could establish a program like that, that could last, I think that would be a resource that could, you know, prove very beneficial beyond, you know, just the next few years. And then, you know, I had some wonderful teachers in Taylor County. Believe it or not, Kathy Green was my 6th grade teacher.
Okay.
We go back almost as long as she has been here. So Doris Stout and some of these teachers that aren't here anymore. My goal is to give back to the community what was given to me. I mean, I have had so many opportunities because of the education I got in Taylor County, and I think the best way that I can do that is through service on the Board of Education. And anything that I can do to help the students or to mentor the students, you know, and leave it in a better place than I found it. Which it's not that it's in a bad place now.
Sure.
But
Great. Well, what do you think? You know, again, you're not on the board currently, but looking at our education system, you obviously participated in it from a mother's perspective, and as well as just engaged in some of the organizations around it. What do you think is the biggest challenge facing our education system in Taylor County today?
well, funding is always a problem. I think one of my strengths is I look at problems a little bit differently. I'm more analytical because I have an analytical chemistry background, and that causes me to think on a different, you know, and think outside the box. And I was on the Friends of McKinney Field Committee where we
Okay.
raised all that money, and I, you know, there are resources that are out there, and I know that the board takes advantage of that, but I think that there may have to be other creative ways of bringing money in. We lose money every time someone's homeschooled. We currently have over 200 students in Taylor County that are being homeschooled, and that's about $6,000 a student. So, you know, I'd like to have a way to get that money back, you know, because you know the state doesn't give it to us, but I don't know where the money goes.
I gotcha.
So,
yeah. Okay. One of the big problems that I think we all face and we all see, and it affects every level, including the Board of Education, is our opioid epidemic.
Oh, absolutely.
And I guess from your perspective or your considerations of what you would do on the board, is there what can be done? Obviously, every level is attacking this, and nobody's got the answer yet. But what can be done at the board level, or do you suspect it can be done at the board level for either prevention or alleviation of the results from the epidemic that's here?
To prevent this and to alleviate, this needs to start age appropriate in the elementary schools and not just say no to drugs. I mean, these students need to know, like in an age appropriate way, what the outcomes can be. You know, that death is a real possibility. I realize that at a young age they don't comprehend death, but as they grow older, more and more they need to be taught more and more. A lot of, you know, the universities, there's a lot of places that will come in, a lot of medical programs and stuff will come in and talk to the students, and I think that, you know, any type of resource like that could be taken advantage of. Unfortunately, there's no way for students to turn in their parents safely.
Sure.
If there was a way that they could say, hey, my daddy was doing drugs last night, or my daddy made methamphetamine. Without that them having to risk their daddy going to prison. Some type of intervention that could be brought about by the students. And that's a lot to put on a child's shoulders, though. So I don't know that would be a good thing. But we have to let them know that this isn't the right thing to do, because by the time they're in high school, it's really too late. Yeah. Unfortunately.
It's a tough one. I haven't heard the magic bullet. I don't think there is a magic bullet, but certainly we're all searching for some way to
because
help.
they're so easy. It's so easy to make meth.
Yeah. So one of the other topics, just shifting right in, I think you're aware, we reached out to the community in Taylor County and said, what questions do you have? Board of Education had a ton from them. We tried to pare them down into certain themes, if you will, or groupings. And one of those, coming right off of one easy problem, the opioid addiction, to another easy problem, which is the school safety piece. You're right where I was going. And I think you were at the event the other night that I was, when a student was asked, you might have asked him, hey, do you feel safe in the school? And it was a young student, maybe a freshman, I think, and his response was, sometimes.
Right.
And as we've talked on this program, everybody just kind of dropped in the room a little bit. Now that may be perceived, it may be real, but how do you as a board member, what do you propose to do that can help us get to the point where when we ask students how they feel about school, they can describe it as a safe place?
Oh yeah, I was there. And I'm so sorry that that they don't feel safe. I mean, that to me is so sad, because I grew up in a time where that didn't happen. So I know that the current board has been doing a lot of active shooter drills and things like that. They've all been debriefed and everything. There are some things I saw. Actually, someone on the internet the other day had created. She was a teacher. She went to Home Depot and figured out a way to lock her door from the inside to where a shooter couldn't. There are things like that could be done. One thing, when I work for the federal government, I have to badge in. Okay, I think they're wanting to put badge in locks for the teachers, but I think the students should have those too, and only be allowed to go in and out certain doors. Have alarms on the doors that if the door is propped open, it alarms. They know immediately that door needs to be shut. I don't know, there's no one answer to this. There are just things to try and to build upon. And I certainly don't want the students to feel unsafe. That is just such a sad.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
We're all in that boat. One of the other that made headlines around here locally, and also is reverberating throughout the nation and other states we see, is the work stoppage.
Yes.
That was primarily led by the teachers, but certainly other service personnel and overall state public employees all were able to receive a raise, and PEIA task force is working on improving that, the whole health benefit. So everybody's trying to claim a win there, and that's great that we all are. And I think most would agree that was deserved to the personnel that received that raise. But where do we go next? And as a board member, how do we, when we look at our education system as a county, and certainly as a state, but as a county, we still aren't ranking up there. And how do we, what can we do, and what can you do as a board member to help us improve our education system where it is one of the top in the state?
There again, it all comes back to funding. And we don't have the industry base and the business base here to get the funding up high enough to give, the raises that these teachers deserve. I mean, it's a shame. And then what they tried to do with the PEIA was absolutely, I could not believe that when I found out about the 365 program and stuff. It's like, oh, you can't do that. That would be horrible. That's
the one for asking people to submit what activity they're having and those kind of things, to whether they get a discount.
And how much they weigh and
the
fitness tracker and what medicines they're on and stuff like that. There's ways that they could have done that would voluntarily, and give it a discount, but not tie it to their rates. Give them, we have a program similar to that in the federal government with Blue Cross and Blue Shield, where we fill out these questionnaires, we go through these processes, and we get money back onto a health spending card that can only be used like for prescriptions and stuff like that. But that's a kickback from the insurance company. Right. But I would love to be able to come up with a solution to pay these teachers more, but until we can increase our B&O taxes and our revenues in the county, we're kind of bound by what we get at the state level. And there again, as more and more students are taken up for homeschooled or transferred to other counties, those monies go down.
Interesting. One of and you already touched on this a little bit earlier when you were talking about workforce readiness, and one of the concepts from folks was, and you see it on statewide and certainly nationally as well, talking about workforce readiness, not necessarily college prep for everyone, but there are folks that can go to a technical school or potentially right into the workforce after high school with certain training where they are workforce ready. And there are companies looking for these people.
Yes.
There are jobs available, and there's just not trained workers or drug-free workers, and we can go down that path as well. But the reality is, people are recognizing this and they're asking, what are we doing, or what do we plan to do as an education system to have our workforce ready?
You know, like I said, a different type of guidance, you know, from the time that the students are in elementary school all the way up through, it's what are you going to be, what are you going to be, what are you going to be? Well, I think we put too much pressure on the kids at a young age trying to decide what they're going to be. By the time they're in high school, they pretty much know if they're going to go to college or not. So those that they know, you know, the ones that they know are going to, fine, send them on that track. There are some that are in the middle and there are some that aren't. The ones that aren't, try to get them into one of the vocational programs, or even start some type of apprenticeship programs with some of the local businesses where they could go in maybe an afternoon or two a week or something like that in lieu of classes or in lieu of being at the technical center, to go in and train with those businesses and actually have some on-the-job training, and then that might, you know, encourage them. And I'm not saying to discourage people from going to college.
Sure.
Believe me, you know, I'm a scientist and I'm all for it, but it's not for everybody.
Yep. That's clearly what the folks at Taylor County are telling us. One of the things that, and I always say this, is a two-way street. Engagement, transparency, clear communication. There has to be a side that's interested and engaged. And so, but I'm hearing from folks how, you know, right now they feel there's maybe a lack of clear communication or transparency to what happens with the Board of Education and the engagement with the community. Again, two-way street.
Right.
But from your perspective, do you feel that? I mean, you've been engaged with the board. Do you feel that engagement is there and that transparency, or can it be improved, and if so, how?
Well, I think that there's always room for improvement, but the Board of Education has a website, and it is pretty well maintained. The meeting dates and times are all on there. The agendas are on there. Past meeting minutes, all the contact information for all the board members and central office staff is there. The board agendas are in the newspaper. If you show up 15 minutes early for a board meeting, you can go in and sign papers and request to speak at that meeting. If it's something like when we had the Friends of McKinney Field, we would call in a week early to be put actually on the agenda. So if it's something that's worthy of the agenda, they'll put that on. Otherwise, they'll say just come in early and speak. So those opportunities are there for people that are looking for them, and but you're right, there needs to be engagement. Now, the way the board is structured, people cannot just speak out at the meetings. You know, the meetings are open to everyone, and I encourage people to go to the meetings because you really do find out a lot. I have been learning a lot. I've been going now for a while, and but there's no back and forth between the board members and the audience. It's you just sit and listen to what they're doing. And the thing about it, we get the agenda that's in the paper. They get an entirely different agenda everything's explained. So yeah, we know that they're voting on item number 2569. Okay, there's a little blurb about what it is, and part of that though is to protect privacy. There are things that cannot be put on there. Years ago, if a lot of people came to the board meetings, they would just go into executive session and stay there until everybody left. I experienced that several times when my son was little. They don't do that anymore. There's a sunshine law. There are only a couple of reasons that they can go into executive session. They have to limit it, to just what they're discussing, and then bring the board back in session, and everybody can come back into the room. But it would be nice if there were a way, I don't know, maybe once a month to have some back and forth dialogue. Okay, the board are going to be meeting half hour, 30 minutes for, come in and engage, meet the board, ask your questions.
Okay.
So,
as is customary on this program, we offer you the last word. So what is it you'd like to tell the people of Taylor County?
okay. I've lived in Taylor County all my life. I've told you that. I am a product of the Taylor County education system. I don't believe the system is broken. I think that the current board is doing a fabulous job, but there is always room for improvement. I feel that one of my greatest strengths, as I said earlier, is that I can look at problems, approach them from a different angle, and come up with creative solutions. I've also had quite a bit of training on federal government budgets. So I understand the state and county budget systems, things that you can spend money on, things that you can't spend money on. I understand all that. And if you elect me, if you give me this opportunity, I promise I will do my best. And my phone number will be on the web page. I encourage calls. I will talk to anyone at any time, but I would just appreciate a chance.
Crystal Barney Forrester, Board of Education, thank you and good luck.
Thank you.